And all those plot holes people complain about?
Oh god, black and white. Close up black and white. They don't matter.
Hey man, it's a style. Leave him alone.
They don't actually matter. So, what is a plot hole?
His hairline's gone back even more than mine.
Yeah, I was keep the cap on, buddy.
Oh,
It's
that's
strange
so
that he's
mean.
still
You
wearing
can't
the
make fun
same
of
outfit,
somebody's baldingness. I mean, you can, but I was just gonna say, like, they don't matter. It's like, all right, let's make sure we remember that he's just said they don't matter. So if he brings up at any point, in any way, that they can matter or are valid, just keep that in mind.
People's definitions vary, but here's the generally accepted one.
I love that he says they vary in definition after saying people don't know the definition.
Okay.
Nice job.
that I use. A plot hole
And he defines this one as the one he uses rather than the one from the dictionary. It's like, come on, try harder.
is a point in which a story breaks a previously established rule about its own universe.
There you go.
Basically, it's when a story contradicts itself.
There you go.
Okay, so here's what are not plot holes.
So,
I don't want to do it anymore.
Something that happens off screen
so let me.
can be a plot hole.
Yeah, I know. Let me just give you an example that's not in this video and just not even in a film. You just have a character who's like 5 foot tall, and then 2 scenes later you see him and he's just 7 foot tall, and you're like, what the hell? And then someone goes, he could have had surgery between then to lengthen his legs.
Or if you have a crippled character, right, and they have to get somewhere, and after a scene transition, they're there with everyone else. It's like, how'd you get here? It's like, oh, I learned how to. Oh, my legs healed.
And then they broke again.
They broke.
The thing is
I
that
ran so fast that my legs just broke again.
yeah, my legs were unused to the effort of walking, and so they broke. I flew too close to the proverbial sun, and I
So,
broke
yeah,
my legs.
What we're learning here is that it matters about context. It's not as simple as something happens off screen is not a plot hole. It
They
matters
can
what the
happen
context
off-screen,
is.
They
Yeah.
don't have to.
The thing he's gonna do is he's going to say something along the lines of like, it happened just because they didn't show it doesn't mean it's a plot hole, and he's gonna apply it to something
Explain it
that
away. We can conveniently explain it away.
Dude, he
it's
applies it
just
to
him
the
writing
most...
the movies for us.
he doesn't even do that. He
directors.
goes for the simplest possible one that no one would ever disagree with. I'll let you see it.
In The Dark Knight Rises.
Oh wait, this guy's going to raise an actual one, and he's going to bat it down, and then he's going to compare it to one that it's not the same as whatsoever.
We never see how Batman gets back to Gotham City. That's
Yeah,
a
that's an
plot
actual
hole.
issue.
Yeah, so just to cover that quickly,
Are you
because
kidding me?
I actually watched
That's
the
an
film.
actual problem.
I watched it recently with a friend of mine called Metal, because we were invested in seeing if it was as bad as we remember, and I still think that Dark Knight Rises is pretty awful, and that is a major one. Bruce Wayne is bankrupt, and he's stored in some distant hole in the ground in some foreign country. He gets to the top of it, and then the next time we see him, he's like healthy and ready to fight as Batman in Gotham, and you're like, wait.
and it's only like a day later. Why? How can you possibly listen to that?
Because it happened off screen.
It
and
happened off screen.
He found a jet that was abandoned, and he flew. He found an abandoned jet, and he flew in the jet, and then he got back to the city with he used a parachute.
No, it's in the DC
See, I can explain it
universe.
away, and it doesn't break the laws of physics.
It's in the novelization. You guys just refuse to read because you're idiots.
Yeah, but it's in the DC universe, so Superman obviously picked them up and dropped them off in Gotham.
That's
Oh,
true. Yeah.
shit.
You don't get to being Bruce Wayne without making a few connections. Time to call in a few favors.
So yeah, that one's an actual one, and look at the one that he references as an example of how it can happen off screen, guys. Don't complain.
One of the earliest cinematic developments was the concept of montage. The idea is that when 2 images are presented in sequence, the audience understands that they occur chronologically and will mentally fill in the time between scenes. So for instance, if a person is in one location and the next scene they're in another location, we understand that in between scenes they traveled between the locations.
So guys,
Wow, this guy's a fucking idiot.
it is so like yes,
Okay,
yes, we
Mueller,
understand
Mueller.
that.
Mueller, can you answer me a question?
Okay.
Because I'm really afraid to know the answer, but I feel like I have to.
Why is he in an alley?
Well, That is a question, but
I assume that he walked there in between scenes.
my question was going to be, does he have $9,000 of Patreon supporters, and he only makes one video a month?
I don't think he's as bad as Mark Brown, but he's.
I don't know. I think he's kind of worse.
Oh,
just
I
based off of
mean,
his 2 minutes so
what I meant
far.
was I don't think he makes as much money, so it's not as terrible in terms of content.
Oh, okay.
But I don't actually know if he even has Patreon. I don't really know much about him.
It's no biggie, doesn't matter.
But
Because that's fucking retarded what he just said, regardless of. How
yeah, I was
much
gonna
he
say,
makes.
do you guys even need us to explain why what he just said is a complete false equivalency? It's like saying, you know, someone kicking you in the foot is the same as someone slamming a fucking sledgehammer on it.
Yeah, basically, you can explain anything away. You can say, meanwhile, at this location, somebody that we just saw somewhere else is now here.
As they're saying in
this
chat,
came out today. Okay.
as they're saying in chat, it's about context. It's always about context. You can't just say stuff can happen off screen, guys. Go away. Next point. It's like, oh,
Every example is an individual.
all they needed to do in The Dark Knight Rises, by the way, was just have Bruce find a contact in a foreign country that he knew from his days as a training at blah blah blah. It would be convenient,
Mr.
but then it
Wayne,
wouldn't
I
be a
haven't
plot
talked to
hole.
you since Namibia.
And then you get people being like, "How do you know that didn't happen?"
Oh my God.
They
I'm
had
looking
that in
at
one of
the
the Tomb
comments.
Raider movies. Like, I need a Jeep in Africa. Let me call up one of my old war buddies who owes me a favor.
As
Like, okay, I guess.
well, as
That
the
works.
famed Bilbo Baggins once said, "It's about context." Like that's one of his quotes.
Precious context.
That was right after Bilbo defeated Voldemort, on the bridge of Khazad-dûm, right?
So there is a friend of mine in
No, that was in
there's a friend of mine in chat
Right,
who I
forgot about
asked to sort of try and advocate for the video as best he can, and he did say, would knowing how Bruce Wayne got there, however simple, would that have improved the movie?
Yes.
I think that you could just
It would
apply
have
it to
improved
any.
that part of the movie at
I was
least.
gonna say it doesn't necessarily have to improve it to be called an actual flaw, as in because this is the thing that people are pointing out, right? Is like, is it a contradiction or is it simply a lack of information in which there could actually be an explanation? And
Well, they have to show that explanation because otherwise it doesn't make any goddamn sense.
well, I was gonna say it ruins the stakes because now he can teleport and generate resources, as far as we can assume. So it's unnecessary breach of what would you call it? Like an investment from many viewers, when all you need to do is a throwaway line at worst. Because he followed up with saying, wouldn't it be a bit tedious to have an explanation like that in the climax? Well, you don't have to make it long. You can literally have a scene where Bruce walks into some kind of bazaar or wherever is near the place he was in, because it looked very distant from civilization. And then you find a way, he gets a phone, and then he calls Alfred, or then he calls someone he knows, gets a pickup, and that's it. And the person on the phone could be like, "What do you need?" And then he's like, "We're gonna need and he says a bunch of numbers, so it implies that this is a thing he had set up. You just be like, "Oh, okay." 1 minute at most. Instead, we watch him poof into Gotham, and we're like, "What?" And that's the thing. Gotham's on lockdown as well. Do you remember? Like, nobody in or out aside from resources across the bridge. So it's just like, oh, okay.
No, he was able to get into Gotham, look perfectly fine, and he was able to make that big, stupid, burning bat symbol on the building.
Yeah, it's a bit much, I'd say, to go into. And then, objectively speaking, is absolutely a gap. Whether or not it'll affect people's enjoyment, I guess we're living proof that that actually happened, but it's obviously a possibility, I guess. But anyway, we will let him continue.
Movies tend to assume that the audience is reasonably intelligent, but I guess they're wrong. If movies showed us every single second that happened during the span of the story, they would be 40 hours long and
Yeah, people didn't
No
ask you to
one-
show every
yeah.
single second.
Yeah, nobody's asking.
It's a complete
for what
straw
you-
man.
Yeah, no one's asking for
Yeah,
that.
yeah, just find one person on the planet who said they wanted to watch Bruce Wayne take every step from that hole back to Gotham. Just find me that person.
Yeah, if he locates a car, we assume he can drive. You know,
Yeah, how about we
that's-
look at all
that's
the
different than-
movies? Let's look at all the movies out there that don't have plot holes, that aren't 40 hours long. Oh, what do you know? All of them, because there's no movie that's 40 hours long.
Some of them feel like it though.
Like,
boring.
you mean
Got
like this
him.
When a
video?
character does something you wouldn't do.
Here we go.
What?
Here we go.
When
This
a
is
character does something you wouldn't do.
so to give you some context on this, because I know where he's going with it. Just Right actually tweeted out after it was a few days after the debate me and Wolf had with him. Said something along the lines of, it was either him or Hello Greedo, but they said it's so annoying that people basically look at Holdo's actions and they criticize it as like sort of something nobody would ever do when it's actually something they wouldn't do, and that she's a character and she can make her own decisions when they don't accept that all they're complaining about is that they wouldn't have made the decision, which is like, wow, you know, like that's the justification you have to come up with to be able to sort of let the story run, when you can just find the contradiction like I did with Just Right, where it's like, would you agree that Holdo puts the lives of the Resistance above anything else? And most people will say yes, because why the fuck wouldn't she? And you'd be like, so why did she let Poe almost kill everybody instead of just telling him the plan? Like,
well, she had a moment of insanity.
yeah, that's what you have to go with. She's stupid, okay? And you don't accept that people can make stupid decisions, which is actually going to be the argument he makes here.
I am asking you, did he have a moment of weakness?
The first
Are
legendary
you a
debate.
Disney fanatical Star Wars fan?
Disney fanatical universe. I remember being like, what does that mean?
Yeah, it was like, what are you talking about?
And this is the other thing, by the way.
Fanatic here.
You know when you have an episode of The Simpsons where Homer does something stupid, you don't go, I would never have done that. It's like, oh no, Homer is stupid. That's his whole thing. He's a stereotype of the stupid American. That's supposed to be the joke. Just like all of them are stereotypes in The Simpsons, and yet Apu's is the only one that's offensive, apparently. But you then fast forward to something like Holdo, and it's got no establishment of being stupid or petty or idiotic, and yet she is. And so you're just like, okay, the audience feels a little bit confused about that one.
How
So is he
immensely convenient.
Is he saying that every person who's implying that this is a plot hole wants a movie to be all the same characters?
Well, yeah, kind of like,
but like 10 of them.
he's saying that we're saying that we want these characters to behave as we would.
Yeah, so everyone would behave as we do, and therefore they would all have the exact same character.
In our 40-hour movies, everyone needs to behave exactly like we do. That's the movie that we're advocating for.
And this is the
Like,
thing.
no, I just advocate for characters that aren't retarded. That's all I want. Is like characters that can think for themselves, so I don't have to think for them.
Yeah, characters can make reasonable mistakes. That it doesn't mean that you have to basically resort to this character had a moment of complete random insanity.
They had to,
and that's totally not a plot hole.
that's what the guy argued with me at Wolf. He was like, Hux was arrogant and stupid. That's why he fired on nobody instead of everybody. It's like, okay.
He called him a boy. Don't you see how offensive that is?
And then he had to
I
double
am
back
axing you.
because we were like,
Oh, yeah.
why isn't he arrogantly chasing them later then? He's like, well, wait, was that after when Snoke spoke to him? We were like, yes, that was after. And he was like,
Was that
"Oh."
after the scene that I just completely made up?
All right, have a look.
There are so many plot holes in A Quiet Place. Oh, it's such a great
Yes.
movie. I mean, like, why did they decide to have a baby?
Okay, see,
Exactly.
did you catch the follow-up bit? Oh, it's such a great movie, because they're implying that the person who points out the plot holes says you're not allowed to like it, which, funnily enough, you did do earlier. I'm going to assume hyperbolically, we allow people to like whatever they want.
It was hyperbolic.
But
I don't think it's a. Well, no, I know for a fact it's not a good movie, but you know.
That's the thing, the plot holes still exist.
I like A Quiet Place, but I recognize that there are some serious problems with the movie, but you can still like the movie.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
There's nothing wrong with liking the movie. I like that. I like A Quiet Place. I enjoyed that movie, but it has
So did I.
problems.
High five.
So let's see what he's...
Yay.
Wolf, this is going to be difficult for you, man. I'm sorry.
Baby. And why didn't they just move to the waterfall?
Oh, this is the one that really drives me nuts. Movies are, for the most part, about human beings, or at least characters who think and act like human beings.
The Quiet Place is about human beings. That's why they're all fucking retarded.
Hey, man. Let him make his incredibly good argument, and then we can...
He doesn't
respond
have an
to it.
argument.
Why
Stop.
were you recording this on a busy street?
I don't know. It's style.
With
Style
the
over
wires
substance.
and the
It's
long
exactly
gate?
the same as
Oof.
I
the
mean, this isn't like
movie maker's philosophy.
this isn't a substantive criticism. This is a question about a style question. You have like a nice quiet studio. And I mean, like, isn't it
It's-
like hot in August?
People find it cool. You're just nitpicking. You're nitpicking and you're being rude. Okay,
I'm not
Rags.
saying he's wrong for I'm not saying he's wrong for it, even though the even though the tag on the pipe says my name. I'm not saying he's wrong. All I'm saying is that I don't really get what he's going for
Yeah,
with the alley shots and the
He's
I
going
ass-
for street cred.
I assume
like a
it's
gangster.
supposed to feel flashy and back and forth and interesting. Like it keeps you into, you know, it's a bit like ADHD. It's just like boom, ba boom, ba boom, boom, boom.
Oh, the pipe does say your name. There you go.
Part about human beings, or at least characters who think and act like human beings. And you know what human beings are not? Logical. People are
Yes.
impulsive.
Yeah, but
They
on average, human beings are not fucking retarded,
Yeah,
and their entire characters don't shift in an instant.
you know what?
Like, I'm sorry, maybe I don't want to be following a bunch of idiots that don't know what they're doing in this movie I'm supposed to be taking seriously. Maybe if this was Scary Movie 4, where you're supposed to be following a bunch
I was
of
about to
idiots.
say that's a good point. The scary movie, these stupid things happen because the characters are stupid, because they're parodying bad horror movies where people are just stupid for no reason. I mean, they parody good horror movies as well. I'm not saying they don't, but the problem is the statement: humans are always logical and humans are never logical. Are both just stupid. Don't make those.
Yeah, when did we ever? Yeah, there's a way to have characters make reasonable mistakes, or to maybe make a bad call, but you can almost always justify it because people generally do things for reasons.
Yeah.
Right? Even if it's a wrong move, even if it's maybe a taking a different path, right? People have reasons for the things that they do. Humans don't really behave completely randomly.
What's a
But
great
if
thing?
you can use that as a complete and total excuse for anything that a character does. Basically the insanity defense. Your Honor, my
Yeah.
client pleads temporary insanity.
And that's what they do with plenty of characters when they make either contradicted or downright retarded decisions that you just sitting there like, how could they possibly have thought this? And the way to make a flawed character is to have a consistent sort of core, right? Where the best one I can think of off the top of my head is just Tywin Lannister's whole deal is pride. He feels pride in everything that he does, so it motivates him to push everything for his family forward and his image. And it pushes him to the point where he's super successful, gets super powerful, but it kills him, is the point, his pride. He doesn't actually, he's not concerned with the idea. I don't want to spoil it. I was about to say a bunch of things, and I was like, wait, there are probably some people who haven't seen season 4 of Game of Thrones. So what I'm saying is when characters make an error, it's usually related to something that I suppose is a huge part of their character. You could actually apply it to Cersei as well. She never would have thought she rose somebody to power as a plan for herself in Game of Thrones, and then she ultimately, again, I don't want to spoil it. Eddie, do you follow what I'm saying? I'm trying to find another example, like within, Anakin search for power to save people, ultimately overreaches and fucking makes the mistake of doing a bunch of things that are just outright wrong, but motivated by a decision for power. Though killing the kids thing was a little bit too far. I need to find some more examples. Just characters can do stupid stuff as long as it's implied that they think it's the right decision or they have a blind spot. I think that's the word I was looking for. Established blind spot.
Iron Man's ego.
Absolutely. Cap would have an inability to trust that he needs to. I don't know. I was gonna say like he could never see wrong in Bucky, for example.
Establishment, I guess.
Yeah, like Captain America almost dies to Bucky because he just doesn't believe that it should essentially stop him because he's just that invested in him, and that could have resulted in him dying. So these
People are reacting to you saying Anakin killing kids is a little too far.
Okay, majorly too far. I was being hyperbolic. What's the opposite of hyperbolic?
Are you kidding?
He just goes to other places on the planet, starts killing the kids thing. It's like, these aren't even Jedi, dude.
Oh no, he needs to put them in labor camps and gas chambers.
Yeah, that's too far.
Burn 'em.
Killing it?
The kids probably died too quickly.
Oh, there you go.
Exactly.
Quill-
They were too merciful.
Quill's reactions in Guardians of the Galaxy 2 and Infinity War, they're all motivated by him being incredibly emotionally attached to people to the point of absolutely ridiculous overreactions. Established. And the film puts effort into say, like, if there's gonna be something he does that's gonna fuck things up that other characters wouldn't do, it'll be related to these people, these important people, or how emotional it is. What I'm trying to say is, he's gonna bring in the fact that they don't go to the river in a quiet place as a human error. It's a logical error that someone can make, which if you've seen the film, they live there for what, like 2 years, right next to the river. They tell us in the film that the river is a safe place. You can scream while at the river.
I'd live there.
I'd live there. That seems like the right thing to do. And they don't in the film even remotely try and explain. All they needed to do is have a kid say, Dad, why don't we live here? And then the dad is like, you can't make anything that lasts long near a river or something. Like, you can't build on a river. But then I was just going to say, you could just argue they could dig. They could do anything. There's plenty they could do just because they could make so much noise next to a river.
Yeah, why not live down in that safe room? I mean, that's just... I mean, if your family's at risk, and if you're in constant danger all the time, living in fear, why the fuck are you not down in that room for your cooking and your cleaning and your leisure and your spelling? Why are you not always down there?
Oh, see, okay, so it's, first thing is that we see them in the film build the soundproof room only once the baby's coming along, which is retarded. You'd build that well before.
Because that's the first thing you fucking do.
So yeah, so they have intuition, they have creativity, they don't choose to live at the river, so that's one thing. And then someone in chat just said, because then you'd have no movie. That's a lack of creativity. If you can't make a movie out of a film where there's monsters everywhere that react to hearing things, and you've put your... I'd say it makes sense to put your base of operations at the river, and then they need to go out for reasons, and that's what puts them in trouble.
Or right? You just don't have the fucking waterfall in the movie and you
just
don't have
the waterfall. That's a good point.
Yeah, did that scene have to exist? Does it ever come up? I can't forget. Does it ever come up again? Do they ever use it?
As Wolf pointed out when we were watching it, he's like, they get...
do it.
Oh, that's when they
basements.
establish that louder sounds cover up softer sounds, and you need a waterfall for that.
As though we even needed to have that explained to us in the first place.
Yeah, as if even a child doesn't know that.
And there's so many things they don't explain. So they have sand everywhere, implying that there's some kind of place they're getting sand from. And it brings up the question of, wait, so typically you get sand from a beach. And it's like, can you live on the water? Can these things get to you in the water? What do they do with water? What happens? Can you... Because water's pretty noisy. I don't know do they go after fish? Do they eat fish? Do they kill fish? And you'd be like, oh, that's exploring too much. And you're like, okay, fine. But stop letting us know that these are options.
Yeah, but
confusing.
But if your defense is you're thinking too much,
stop makes sense.
It's like those zombie movies, right? Where you're like I was a kid and I'd be like, why doesn't everybody live on a houseboat, like on the lake, and they're safe all the time?
The argument could be that you'll run out of resources eventually, and you need a more consistent whatever. There's things you can do is kind of what I would argue for. You can make stuff up. You can be like, oh, the boat is falling apart, or it's running out of electricity, or the motor breaks, and it's like, we have to go to land. That could be the film. They have to go to land. That could be interesting. Like, you don't have to... They put themselves in this position, and people are like, but if you recognize the river, then you have no movie. It's like, that's their fault. Why are you saying that like it's inevitable? They actually say themselves that they can't hear them under the river, when you could have just said, yeah, the river doesn't protect you. It's a different frequency of sound. The river doesn't stop them from hearing you. It's an in-house rule, and you could be like, oh, okay, fine.
Yeah, like, for whatever you don't even have to explain. They could hypothesize about it. Well, these things know what a river sounds like. They know that it's not something they can kill or eat, so they filter it out, or something like that.
Yes, he's arguing that, hey, humans make mistakes. And for me, it's just like, that
justifies anything.
Yeah, I was going to say, what can someone do in a film that you can't just justify with that excuse? Is there ever a time where a character does something that you think is dumb? Mr. What's his name? Patrick Willems? I'm just curious.
I forgot we were watching a video about this guy.
Like, if someone's just walking around having a normal day that shoots themselves in the head, and the family doesn't even care, they don't even notice, and there's blood everywhere, and then
sometimes people just do weird things.
Yeah, and I'd be like, is that fair? And then he's like, that's an extreme, and I'd be like, oh, so there's a scale. There is a scale. There's a line drawn, just to clarify.
They make choices based on emotion. Not everyone thinks exactly the same, and also...
What exactly would the choice have been to not go to the river that was emotional?
Because
they're lazy.
Because the mother had a traumatic experience involving a waterfall as a child.
Oh god.
And so she has waterfall phobia.
We're emotionally retarded.
You see, that's weird because I have this phobia of monsters that want to kill me. So that's my emotional reason for being by the waterfall all the time.
Imagine that in the film. They're like, the kid points out, "Should we live the river?" And it's like, your mother doesn't like water.
Okay,
She can stay at
Okay.
home then. We'll stay here.
yeah, I'll be here.
Waterfalls killed
why
by
don't-
father.
Why aren't we just fucking camping here? It's like we have all the gear we could ever need and then some.
Gamer of Rock is right. I think this falls under Jared response theory. I have to categorize it there. Not making
Well,
a lot of sense.
even Jared was like that. The purple-haired bitch was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, he pointed out.
Even Jared recognized that the purple-haired bitch didn't make any sense.
People make mistakes.
Jared's on a
You know how
different
in Star
plane
Trek,
than us.
Vulcans live dominated by logic, and it's established that acting logically is at odds with acting human. So if everyone
That's not. Did you seriously just
What?
justify that acting logical is actually opposing to acting human? It's not acting logical alone, it's acting only logical. Only logical, yes, that's less than human because humans are inherently emotional beings. That doesn't mean we never act logically. Come on. Like,
Hey man, they're the opposite, okay?
He's-
Human and logical, two different things.
he makes an argument in this fucking video that he's using this microphone system right now because it's good, and he needed one because he wanted to be on the move. It's like, that sounds like a logical decision.
I think, and you don't get castigated in Vulcan society for, it's when people make fun of you for being too human, it's because you're emotional, not illogical. You can do illogical things, and people don't say, "Haha, you're human."
Someone in the chat said that he's evolved as a critic.
Oh no.
Oh my!
I can't believe he cites Star Trek to prove that acting in logical ways means you're not human. It's like, what are you doing?
acted totally logically all the time, only making the most logical decision in any situation, no one would be acting human. Thus,
Yeah, if you acted logically 100% of the time, that would be an issue.
But again, this
That's
is
not
just
what's
like the
happening.
whole- this is like the 40-hour movie, and this is like the characters behaving as we want them to. This is a complete straw man. That's
Yeah.
that people aren't saying that characters have to be robots. That's not what we're asking for.
There are plenty of things they do in the film. For example, the firework system to distract them. It's like, oh, that makes some sense. Yeah, I can see that. I can see doing that. That's yeah. And then he could be like, no, that was an emotional decision. They just really like fireworks. It has nothing to do with the actual logic of, distracting the enemies. I'd be like, oh. Lucky it had that effect, I suppose.
Yeah, that's convenient that they had that emotion at that exact time they needed to have it. Well, I had the firework emotion just when we needed a distraction. Oof, that was close. Good thing we're not perfect, or else this would be an issue with the plot.
Ugh.
there would be no conflict, which would lead to no drama, which would lead to no stories. And movies would be really f***ing boring.
Interesting how he just said there would be no stories when he established that the Vulcans are like fully logical and they have plenty of stories and drama in Star Trek. But sure. Because do you guys think you could write a story out of a set of beings that are only logical?
Yes.
Yeah,
I think
yeah,
I could.
absolutely, because you could have two opposing forces that are both
Exactly,
being logical
that's
from their point of
You
view.
have two
not even
logical,
hard.
conflicting ideas. Easy.
Dude, it's
Yeah.
Game of Thrones.
Yeah, everybody can be out for themselves and be internally consistent, but they can also be opposed to other people, and that can create drama. Conflict is drama.
Yeah, no,
You can
he's
just, think.
he slammed the kibosh on it, guys. It's only boring if you do logical things. Done.
You
You know,
know,
I think,
somebody
he,
asked
I
me-
think he only hates logical things because he's inherently illogical himself.
Maybe. Well, it's just like he can't argue against them, and so he has to completely try. Well, he's great at attacking these points no one's making.
Yeah, he's creating
yeah, he's great
insane
at that.
people to fight against, and for some reason his comment section's eating it up like it's just the truth. Like I said, I'm referenced in there as one of the people that does this shit. It's like, when have I ever said that you should always act logical 100% of the time? It's like, what? Who even
it's like
says that?
And the thing is, somebody asked me, I think it was late last week, that they were writing a story, and the way that they were writing a story, all the characters kind of ended up being sort of the same, and they asked what they could do to kind of change that. And the first thing I said was, have their backgrounds be different so that they are led to their own different conclusions about things. And it works just like this. People don't have to be illogical for them to take branching paths.
And it's a really interesting topic, to be honest, how logic intertwines with emotion, but he's just made it so boring and simple. Like, logically why it's just like this is this, go. And it's like, oh.
Isn't that the whole baseline of Thanos? What like his thinking is technically logical, but it's completely off in comparison to all of the heroes.
It's motivated emotionally, but it's a logical decision, you could argue. This is what I mean by it being really interesting.
It's a logical decision because he has proof, right? His planet was dying. He said that it was dying, and then it eventually died.
But then key lines of dialogue, like when he says, when he's talking about sacrificing Gamora, he's like, I won't let something stand in my way again. It's like he's clearly angry about the fact that he couldn't do it the first time.
Yeah.
And it's not like anyone's making the argument that his solution wouldn't work.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's a logical decision, only it's a different logical compared to the hero's logical.
Yes. And that's the conflict of logical ideas that can happen, but apparently that's just boring. And so just to clarify for viewers and for us, a plot contrivance, so like a convenience or inconvenience, it's like watch The Force Awakens, you'll know what that is. It's like everything works out for you, or whenever something needs to happen plot-wise, the unlucky or lucky thing happens.
It's a good thing this happened.
Yeah. Yeah, I wouldn't categorize them as a plot hole. I would categorize them as a contrivance or a convenience. So,
yeah, it's not like it can't happen. It's just insane coincidences that when the stars just happen to line up.
And as far as I'm concerned, you can have them, just bloody hell, try not to have 100 that all lead up to the biggest payoffs. Like, have them really early on. Like, for example...
Yeah. A story can start with a great... with a great coincidence.
Yeah.
Someone's thrust into some kind of scenario. But that doesn't mean that every single thing has to happen because
Star Wars, R2-D2 ends up bumping into Luke Skywalker. That's the coincidence that starts the whole film off.
But it's not too bad because it's it has to bump into somebody.
Yeah, and that's the thing. It's fine because it's right at the beginning, and the rest of the story is where it works to have payoffs. That everything starts to happen just because of how characters are motivated. But that's the thing. It's fine with me to have a couple, but like it depends on what they do. For example, we need to open this door. I'll shoot it, and then it opens, and you're like, wow, like that was lucky. Instead of like the million other things that could happen, and it turns out that door behind it has the exact thing they need. You know, and you just be like, yeah, that takes me out of the film.
Whenever somebody punches the keypad, and because they don't know the code, and it opens up the door,
stuff like that. Yeah,
it's convenient. That's what happens when you punch it. It seems, I don't know if that's how doors would be designed, but all right. Seems like a counterproductive security measure to me. Okay.
Let's see his assessment of plot contrivances.
There is a huge plot hole in Star Wars. I mean, come on. Why would the Death Star have such an obvious design flaw?
I was actually talking to Footier about this like a half hour ago, but it's a bit weird to say that it's like a contrivance or a convenience that there's this hole that they can fire a missile down to destroy the entire Death Star when they're holding the blueprint for it. So they have literally every piece of information about the Death Star. So it's logical that they would find, you know, like I use this analogy with Footier. So you look at a car and it's like, destroy this thing with just, you know, a lighter, like within 5 seconds. If someone who's never seen a car before, you'd be like, I don't know. But then if you take somebody who actually knows what a car is and knows the blueprints, they can immediately go to the, you know,
disconnect one wire.
Well, you can do that. I was going to say you could open the gas tank thing.
You just
throw
the lighter in.
Yeah, and then boom. And it's like, oh, that's a pretty convenient way to be able to destroy the car. It's like, well, I mean, I guess it is.
Like, if you know how a car works, you know that all I have to do is disconnect a spark plug and it won't start.
And
all I have to do is just cut one wire and it's not going anywhere.
The idea is machines tend to have big weaknesses that you'd know if you were the one who made it, or i.e. the one who had the blueprint. And let's remember, every single ship in the fleet gets destroyed outside of Luke's. They miss the first shot, and he has to use the Force to be able to nail it. Like, it's not easy. It's not something that just...
Yeah, it's not like they just flew there on holiday and blew it up.
So, yeah, to me, you could say... I think I'd be happy to say it's slightly convenient, but it's not a significant convenience that has no basis in reality. It's like, come on.
It wasn't convenient for them when they were doing it.
We certainly not. It would have been way better if it was as simple as, oh yeah, we could just fire a remote-controlled rocket right in there from wherever we are. It'd be like, wow, that's useful. Yeah, as someone just said in chat, it's like, wow, how convenient. This car just happens to be filled with a liquid that makes it explode. It's like...
Also, we're on a roof now.
Yes, we are.
Okay, some of these can be valid complaints. Some
Did you catch that?
Not that one though.
Yeah, but remember what he
he's
said
the
at the beginning?
arbiter of telling you who can have a valid complaint or not.
Remember he said at the beginning that these things don't matter? That he said, oh, that's a valid complaint. It's like, wait, can you,
Well,
you just tell me which one's a which? Because
yeah, are they or not?
the
Can they be valid or not?
the mighty
They're
Patrick
valid
Willems.
They're valid depending on what movies he subjectively likes.
Exactly. But this is something you should be able to pick up pretty quickly, is that he's raging against all of the people in the world who said that they didn't like a movie because of X plot hole, and then he's just like saying, that's stupid. But then there's going to be a time where he watches a movie and doesn't like it, and then someone says, why didn't you like it? And he goes, I don't know, it didn't really make sense that this thing happened. It didn't really make sense that we just go, that's just a plot hole, why'd you care?
Yeah, just shut up about plot holes.
Shut up
I think
about the
that's what
plot
Willems told
holes.
me. Shut up about plot holes.
Don't think.
Don't think about stories. There's no reason to write good stories. There's no reason to have consistent lore. There's no reason to have, to put all this work into making everything make sense. There's no reason. Why bother? Just
Yeah.
have some nonsensical story with flashy graphics.
That's why I can't stand people like this, because every time they're like, oh, just ignore everything wrong with it. Don't think. That just spits in the face of every single good story ever written.
And dude,
because if you can just make everything good just by ignoring everything bad, then what's the point of ever making something good?
I don't want that. Yeah, like I don't want people to have that.
Yeah, we don't want that, Will.
I don't want to tell them. I don't want them to say, "Oh, yeah, that video you made, it's fine. I just ignored all the bad shit."
Yes.
Like,
So the problem for me fundamentally about now this video is he's contradicting himself permanently. So at least we could assume that he's saying there's never any problems with anything, and you could be like, that's a retarded position, but fine, at least he's consistent. But now he's just said there are such things as valid plot holes. So now we know that he has a scale, and since ours is based on literal just evidence of contradiction, that's all we require. His is based on, it's about whether or not I feel that it is. Like, okay.
Someone in the chat said, just ignore the Holocaust.
Jesus. Foxstream donated and said, stop this stream about this hack and go to Jared.
You just watched a segment from Every Frame a Pause, or EFAP. Hosted by YouTubers Mauler, Rags, and Fringy, and joined by a cycling variety of guests across the internet, they critically analyze media with exhaustive detail while pausing at every single frame. Subscribe to Mauler's channel to catch new episodes live on Saturdays, and tune into the EFAP channel to see full episodes, movie and TV commentaries, and gaming streams. You can also subscribe here to EFAP Highlights for daily highlights, supercuts, and shorts. Links to all the relevant channels can be found in the description section below, as well as links to the original videos and ways to support the crew. Thanks for watching.